Thank you, Robert, and thank you everybody for coming here this afternoon. As Robert said, the film was first shown in Australia in early 2014. It's actually, whereas a number of the films in this festival are not that well known in Australia, and several have not been shown at all in Australia, this is probably the most exhibited, the most screened documentary film in memory. And I mention that only because we decided when we brought it to Australia, my colleagues and I, in 2014, to try and circumvent the media, mainly because we were just fed up with the usual formula responses to any work that deals with a whole slew of serious issues, and especially that of Indigenous people. And we set out to show it right across Australia. Any community, mainly any Aboriginal community, but any community in Australia could show it for nothing, and we would supply the film. All they had to do was tell us. And we did this mainly through social media, and as a result it was shown thousands of times in some of the most remote places in Australia. There's some very moving stories of elders who've come in to see this film and have seen it in the morning and stayed through and seen it as the film has gone round on a loop. As many have said to us that the film was an acknowledgement. That's one of the words they used. The climax of this was over 4,000 people sat outside on the block in Redfern and watched it as it's shortly before Robert showed it out here at Riverside. And what was interesting about that extraordinary number of people who came to see Utopia was not recognised by any of the media. So it really, and it was a combination of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in the audience, and it really pointed up as much as anything else, not only the need for films that try to explain what has happened to Indigenous people and their own epic fight back to what has happened to them, but the division, the difference and indifference. Utopia is my fourth film about Indigenous Australia. The first film was The Secret Country in 1983. That was inspired by a film that was shown, or about to be shown here, I think it was shown at the MCA the other day, Lousy Little Sixpence by Alec Morgan, about the stolen generation. The Secret Country took the whole story of Indigenous people and made it much wider. We both benefited from a producer, Jerry Bostock, Aboriginal filmmaker. He's now departed, unfortunately. Jerry worked on both films. That was the first one. It went through a number of films. One of them was Welcome to Australia, which was made in, there was one made in 1988 as a kind of antidote to the bicentenary celebrations. Welcome to Australia was made as a sort of antidote to the celebrations about the Olympic Games, not that we're against the Olympic Games, but there was another Australia's whose story needed to be told. So I won't say any more, but Utopia continues to be shown in remote communities, and I would think of all the, as Robert said, 61 actually films I've made, Utopia is probably the one into which a sort of large piece of me went, and a large piece of all my colleagues. I've worked with the same editor, film editor, for 20 odd years, and he regards this as his worth, as he said, I think he said, this has made my career worthwhile, simply to be able to have the privilege of working on the Indigenous story. So thank you again for coming.